Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to another session of Coffee with Conscious Coaches. Bring your coffee cups and come have a chat with us about all things conscious. I'm Poonam, and I'm a conscious parenting coach, mom to two grown-up boys.
And I'm Anna, also conscious parenting coach, and I have an 8-year-old. I'm ready with the cards.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. We are here to be your guiding light of awareness that creates a that is here. We are here to create a beautiful pathway for each of one to join us on this journey to access your inner knowing. And we're happy to be here with you all. And with you too.
Okay, Anna, do you want to take out a card?
Awesome. Yes. So let's see.
So this is a set of Dr. Shefali's cards. And we pull a card each day, each time we come here to have coffee with you guys.
Okay. When you parent, it's crucial to realize that you aren't raising a mini me, but a spirit throbbing with its own signature.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's all about sovereignty, right? To understand that we're each sovereign beings, and what a different feeling and understanding that is, to think of yourself as sovereign, as separate, as unique. Thinking back in my childhood, I don't think I've ever thought about it, but I remember having a feeling or a need. I remember having this inner battle of seeing life my way and then being pulled in to do life the way my family did it. And I do remember over the years, even as a teenager and as a young adult, that's always been a struggle within. And I never understood what it was until recently, really, in these last few years studying consciousness, that it was actually my true self, my sovereign self, fighting to be expressed. So I think to give our kids a chance to do that, it's just the greatest gift. And we can start slow, and we can just allow them to express and be curious about it without putting our judgment on it. And if we find ourselves judging or reacting to certain things that they do that we don't agree with, I think we can take a step back and just sit in awareness with all of that. And I think that will give us a chance to bring up those parts in ourselves, right? The parts that we've long forgotten or haven't given attention to. And that's really a gift that our kids can give us, and we can give back to them. And it's just such a different mindset and such a different way of living. It's almost like the flip side of the same coin. It's just life, but then you look at it on the opposite side, and it's completely different to live in sovereignty and to understand that our kids are not us, but they are their own, and to allow them to grow in their unique ways. Also, I think a lot of what happens is a lot of the battles will kind of just fall off the table, right? Because we're not pushing against something, and they don't have to protect it. So that inner battle just kind of falls off. But we also have to be okay with that. I remember when I realized that in my growth in consciousness, that I have to give up the familiarity and the need for battle. Like, if we want harmony, you have to get used to what harmony feels like, because we're so used to being in battle, because we grew up in battle, right? In battle with our parents, in battle with our schools, with our teachers. It was such little true connection and harmony that we're not used to it. So
No.
we have to understand that there's some rearranging that's happening inside ourselves, and we have to sit tight for the ride as that rearrangement takes place, and get used to all these things changing.
Yeah, we've been conditioned to do that. So we've seen that in generations, and it gives such an uneasy feeling when you don't kind of, I would like to use the same word, battle, because you know, so if we deconstruct that battle part, it'll be easier to understand how we honor the sovereignty of our kids. So basically, when we were growing up, there was some kind of conditioning that we were influenced by, based on how our parents were loving us or not loving us sometimes. So if we behaved in a certain manner, so according to the expectation of our parent, we were loved. But then if we didn't behave in that manner, that love was withdrawn, which is what we do to our kids now, because that's a learned pattern, So obviously, when we are that little, we are dependent on our caregivers for safety, security, love, and being seen and heard. So if that love is withdrawn, our basic needs are not being met. So we do everything to make them happy so the love is not withdrawn. So that's how we get conditioned. And now that we are conditioned that way, we are raising our children the same way, okay? And whenever there is a situation where there is a battle, we don't want to lose the battle anymore, because we're conditioned that way. And that's where all the friction begins. So our kids are our biggest awakeners. They show us our parts that haven't healed, that we have brought with us from our childhood. And maybe I'm not blaming our parents, because they did the best from what they knew. They brought those patterns from their childhood. So it is crucial for us to start observing our own patterns. So instead of becoming the person that actions, become an observer of your actions and your thought process. And that's when you can sit, like you said, you sit with those thoughts and feelings to become aware of what we do and why we do it and how we were conditioned, and try to break that cycle so our kids can flourish and bloom joyfully and become who they are.
So yeah, that begs the question: are we seeing our child for who it is they are? They're a unique sovereign being, or are we perceiving them to be who we want them to be, or what we wanted when we were younger? Are we projecting that onto them? So if you wanted to be a doctor, are you projecting that onto them? Do you put them into extracurricular activities? Do you do things like overdo it because it's what you want? Or are you looking at your child as they are, as they show up, and asking them, what are they showing me? What need do I need to fulfill, or what needs to be met when I look at my child as this unique being? What are they trying to tell me? And I think that's the most important thing, is to just see a child for who it is they are, or who they show us to be. And how can we see that if we're so conditioned? And I realized while I was teaching, you look at each individual child and you see their little personalities and how they are. And then you see the unique blueprint within each one of them, their little light. And that's the beauty when you teaching little ones, is that they still have that light within them that has not been dampened or conditioned. They still have that their own way of being. And there's beauty in that. And so we're on this journey to discover our authentic self. And the only way to do that would be to look within ourselves and our inner world and notice the effect that our inner world has on our on the external world and our external reality. And that's the only way, is to look within. That's the art. The art is to look within and find our own light. And when we do that, we give room for others to shine their light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's amazing that when kids are little, we have so much opportunity for this, because they are completely connected with their true selves and their spirit and their soul. And so then we see around 8 or 9 how the ego starts to take shape, and then they get a bit more aware of, like, people react this way when I do this, and people react this way when I do this, and then they might hide, or they might do more of one thing. But when they're little, they're beautiful like that. They're just like unconscious and oblivious to conditioning, and they just go and do who they are without caring of anything, right? And so what an opportunity. We have years of tapping into that and learning with them what that means. And I think maybe it seems hard to some people to know what this sovereignty is, what this spirit is, but the easiest way to see it is in resistance. When our kids resist against what we want to put on them, then we know. And if we can just step back and be like, okay, hold on, what do you need right now? They will tell you. They'll tell you what they need, and you have to listen and respect that, and bring in that curiosity, and try to see what happens if you let your child take lead in certain aspects of their life, right? Especially when they resist against us with tantrums and crying. They're trying to tell us something, and they don't have the words for it or the understanding.
I agree. But I just want to make it clear that when we talk about respecting who they are and honoring who they are, we are not talking about not having any boundaries. That's a totally different subject. We still can have boundaries, but we can have boundaries when we have connection, when we have love, when we are totally in tune with what the child is experiencing. So if let's say if the child is throwing a tantrum, like you said, we need to understand why, what's the condition, what's the underlying reason behind that behavior. The behavior is not to be dealt with, it's the reason behind the behavior. But then once you understand that, you can still have boundaries, but you have boundaries with love, not with boundaries are not to be imposed with punishment or reprimand or all of that. So connection is the most important thing. And once you start connecting, you can still have boundaries, but you can still let your child flourish and understand who they are and respect that and help that child stay the way they want to be, their authentic self, instead of imposing what you want your child to become.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's important that in order for us we have to create an environment, a nurturing environment for them to flourish.
Yes.
I think that is key. A safe space for them to be their authentic self, a safe place where they can express what they need, and an environment in which they can thrive and grow. I think that's the key. So you give them the freedom to be who they are within boundaries.
Yeah. And there's no emotional outbursts from our side, So sometimes I see, when the child is emotionally dysregulated, because we don't know how to regulate our own emotions, we become emotionally dysregulated as well. And that's when the battle starts. So we always need to remember we are the adult in this relationship. And if we understand how to emotionally regulate ourselves, we are kind of teaching our child because we are modeling that behavior. So there will be less tantrums and more knowing, more connection, more love, in that relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and a start on collaboration. To teach our kids to collaborate with us on some solutions. Speaking of boundaries, and that's how we do it. We invite them into the conversation, and I think kids most times are more connected to connection, like they need connection more than we do. We're kind of used to not having connection, and that's a bit of a trick in our world, because if we are okay with not having it, we don't know how to put it out there. We don't prioritize it. But for kids, connection is their lifeline. It's their oxygen. They can't live without connection, especially when they're little. And so I think they're ready to collaborate any moment, as long as we get down to their level and we're equal, and we say, okay, we're struggling with this issue, so help me out. Let's work on it together. Let's figure out some solutions. What do you think we should do? What is it that you want? And then you start to deconstruct with your child the need behind, underneath the behavior, and also their desire or what they might want. And then you figure it out together what they need. And then you come up with solutions. And this way you raise children capable of critical thinking and collaboration and sharing and listening and understanding that in a situation, it takes two to figure it out. So it's all these great little golden nuggets that your kids get to experience year after year after year, so that when they're teenagers, they have all these social skills. These are the true social skills that our kids need in order to lead their lives on their own.
True. And then understanding that there is no hierarchy in this relationship. And if you give equal respect to your child, that's what your child is going to give out. So if we don't respect them and don't honor them, then obviously they're learning that, because that's what we are modeling. So they might not disrespect you in front of you because of fear of withdrawal of love, but there won't be that kind of respect that you think you have created. It's a forced respect. So we need to be very careful. You treat them how you want your child to treat everyone else.
And I'd like to go back to where Anna said connection, because that's the key, is to connect with your kid in that moment.
Yeah.
But how do we connect to them if we are disconnected to ourselves?
Yeah.
And so the work is within ourselves. So if we are able to connect from our head space into our heart space, it would make it easier for us to connect with them and their needs. But if we are disconnected, it's very hard for us to connect to anyone, let alone our child, to be there and to show up. I think it's very difficult to be present in that moment. And that's what in those moments, what we lack, right? To know that we lack the connection. They just want to see you there. They just want to see you show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's a very stressful situation, if you just sit there and just say and name the emotion that they're feeling, and I understand you're sad, or I understand you're angry. That's all that you need to do, and give them a hug.
Yeah.
And they're emotionally dysregulated, but they're still connected. They don't lose that connection. And the more you do it, the stronger your connection is with them. And the more confident that they are within themselves because they know they can express whatever emotion that they feel, that their emotions are not denied, their whole being is not denied, they are seen, they are heard, they are loved, they are respected.
Yeah.
And that's what every human needs, right?
Exactly.
To be
Yeah, we
seen,
need that
to be
too.
loved, to
Yeah.
feel good enough,
Mhm.
worthy.
Yeah.
That's the key. We all want that.
Yeah. And our children are no different.
Yeah.
They want that too, you know. All right. Thank
Exactly.
you very much for this conversation.
Thank you,
We look
Dawn.
forward to having more conversations with our audience each week. Thank you for joining in. If you like this show, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends who would need this motivation and information. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.